couple of years ago, I was introduced to Neville Goddard. I really didn't know much about him before that, but certainly in the last 2 years, I really liked reading, studying, listening to the concepts that he taught, at least the first book that was introduced to me, which was The Power of Awareness. And for me, that was such a incredible book that talked about how the imagination really can help create the things that we love in our life. And I loved the concepts. Because I loved Neville's first book so much, I ended up looking for what his other books were, and I came across Awakened Imagination. And the first time reading through Awakened Imagination, it was a really different experience, different from what it was for me with The Power of Awareness. Certainly, Neville dove much deeper into the topics of imagination, quoting the Bible and different authors that had been prevalent back in the day. And I really had a much more difficult time grasping the concepts, even though some of the same core concepts from The Power of Awareness was in Awakened Imagination. I still had more difficulty understanding that one. Dan Matthews started a course on Awakened Imagination. And because I had actually done his Power of Awareness course as well, I thought, okay, this is perfect. This was such a good time for me to return to Awakened Imagination and really get to know and understand, because I loved the first time I did the Power of Awareness course with Dan Matthews. With Dan, he created such a clear path for me to understand. He took those, for me, relatively complex concepts and really broke them down, really made them understandable. Through the course, I loved asking him questions. I was able to ask him anything Neville Goddard related, and I could get my questions answered. That was always so perfect for me. The insights and questions he raised on a weekly basis allowed me to really practically take the concepts of Awakened Imagination and really relate them to my life in such a meaningful way. That was such a wonderful addition to just going through the book with Dan. And the meditations that Dan made for each chapter allowed me to use them every day and allowed me to just gain that deeper insight of my own into each chapter. Each chapter just got better and better for me. And every week, I looked so forward to continuing my study with Dan and the group that did the class. It was just perfect. Because of how much I loved studying Neville Goddard, I often always looked up different people that were studying it online. Maybe that was YouTube or different places, to see what perspective they had on certain parts of Neville's material. And I found that I was never able to get anywhere near the level in tapping into those particular resources online as I was able to do that with Dan covering Awakened Imagination or any of Neville's books that Dan studied. It was always the best possible outcome for me, was always to be able to do it with Dan and his class. Ultimate value is just, to me, it was second to none. I always had the best possible time learning from Dan, and I couldn't have asked for a better teacher than Dan Matthews covering Awakened Imagination and Neville Goddard's material. So I highly recommend it for you. I would totally recommend it if you have an interest in Neville Goddard's work. Absolutely check it out. It is so worth it. Thank you.
Thanks for being with us today. My goal is to give you value with every lesson. If you would like us to notify you every time a new lesson is ready, click subscribe below, then turn on notification. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks.